Hello, everybody, and welcome to Get Paid, Manage Your Sales, Invoices, and Customers. My name is Jason Ruvault, and I'm going to be your instructor for today's webinar. So this is our agenda. Number one, we're going to talk about the sales workflows that are involved with recording sales in QuickBooks. We're going to talk about the distinction between invoices and sales receipts, when to use one versus the other. Really important to understand the difference between those two and when they both need to be recorded. We'll also talk about personalizing your sales forms. That way, you can sort of put your best foot forward whenever you're working with your clients. So we're going to change around invoices, change around sales receipts, estimates, all of those sorts of transactions. We'll also talk about capturing sales outside of the office on the mobile app. So the QBO mobile app is fantastic. It's also free, doesn't cost you anything extra, and you can access all the same information from your phone as you can from your browser, pretty much. Now, sales transactions, if you're out on the road and you need to record a sales receipt, you need to issue somebody an invoice, you need to send someone an estimate, you can absolutely do that directly from your phone or your tablet as long as you have access to the internet. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about accounts receivable, what that is, and how you can use it to help you track down information about customers that owe you money. And then number 5, we'll talk about sales reports. Now we're going to sort of pepper this entire class with sales reports all over the place. So you'll be learning about it here and there. I don't really think I have any one section where we just talk about sales reports, but you'll see a lot of them here in this class. So that's our agenda. Let's go ahead and dive in. Now, the very first thing that we need to talk about before we enter any transactions is we need to talk about which types of transactions to record and when. Now, QuickBooks is essentially a historical record of your business because it is you going into a program telling QuickBooks about what happened or about what is about to happen right now as you issue an invoice. So the most important thing for us to do is to make sure that we are entering things into QuickBooks accurately according to how they really happen in the real world. Now, sales can happen in 2 different ways. In one way, customers are going to give you money right away. In the other way, customers are going to give you money later on. So whether you use an invoice or a sales receipt depends entirely upon when your customers pay you. So right here, we're going to go through a little workflow. So the money in workflow on the left-hand side, there we go. We've got customer pays at the time of sale, yes or no. That's the fundamental question you need to ask yourself when determining whether to enter an invoice or a sales receipt. Now, if the customer is paying at the time of the sale, the answer is yes, we're going to record a sales receipt. A sales receipt is your way of telling QuickBooks, hey, we made a sale and we got paid by the customer right away. So if you're on a retail location or a restaurant or even a nonprofit organization and somebody is giving you a donation, you're going to use a sales receipt. I know it sounds weird being in a nonprofit and recording a sales receipt, but that really is the best way to do that. So that's when a sales receipt is used. Now, if the money is going directly into a bank account, you can tell QuickBooks that on that sales receipt that the money is going into a bank account. And if that's the case, you're done. You don't have to do anything else. Just record a sales receipt. But if you plan on grouping customer payments together into a single deposit, so if you get paid by 15, 20, 25 people over the course of the day, and all that money is going to be grouped together into one big deposit, you need to use something called undeposited funds. We're going to talk about that during this webinar. And that money is going to go eventually into a deposit. You'll need to have a second transaction that merges all those payments together. So we'll be talking about that too. Now, if the customer pays you later on, you're not going to be using a sales receipt. You're going to use an invoice instead. An invoice is something that you send to a customer to tell them how much money they need to pay you, why they need to pay you, and also when they need to pay you by. So it tells them what the due date is. So you're going to get paid later on. So once the customer actually pays you, we hope they pay you, we're going to record a payment. Now that payment transaction allows us to, one, choose the customer's name, but also if the customer has multiple invoices, we can choose which invoices the payment applies to or multiple invoices that payment applies to. Once we receive that payment, if it goes directly into a bank account, we're done. We don't have to do anything else. But if we want to combine it into a single deposit with other customer payments, we do have to use undeposited funds, and we do have to have that last transaction down there. So those are the two main workflows. They're really distinguished mostly by sales receipt or invoice. We're going to talk about invoices first, but we will talk about both. We're also going to talk about how to use QuickBooks Online Payments, which allows you to basically send a Pay Now button to your customers so that they can click on that and then they can submit payment to you, so you don't have to worry about all of this stuff down here, because if customers pay you through QBO Payments, QuickBooks just downloads those transactions and records them automatically. So that's another really cool thing that QuickBooks can do, and we'll talk about all that too. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is talk about invoices. And before we talk about invoices, we also have to talk about customers, because in order for you to invoice somebody, they have to be set up as a customer. Because if you invoice somebody, QuickBooks has to keep track of what's called accounts receivable. That's a record of what a customer owes you. If they don't know who owes you money, well, then it's not going to be able to account for accounts receivable. So you do need to set these people up as customers. We're going to go over here to sales. This might actually say invoices in your company file. And then we're going to go down to customers. Now, on the customers list, you're able to keep track of your customers' names, their addresses, their phone numbers, email addresses, and their balances. The balance is the amount that they currently owe you. So that's their accounts receivable balance. Right here from the customer screen, we can also filter the list of customers that we're looking at with these options up here at the top. So if I only want to see my customers that are overdue, I'll click overdue right here, and notice that we only see one customer, Trevor Matheson, who's way overdue on all of his invoices. Now, we've got a couple of customers already set up, and I'm going to show you what one looks like once you've set them up. I'm going to click on My Customer, and then I'm going to edit this customer. So in this screen, you can edit the information. This is also the screen where you set them up. I'll show you how to add one here in a minute. And it's always a good idea to put in their address, their email, their phone number, things like that. What's great about this is that not only can you access it through your browser, but if you're using the mobile app, you can also access the same information from your phone. And in fact, you can even tap on a couple of little buttons here and there and manage to actually bring that address up into your map application that you have on your phone or your mobile device. So that's pretty cool too. There's other things in here that you can keep track of for customers, like some notes. You can keep track of whatever you want. We've got tax info right here for sales tax information, payment and billing information for the customer. If you have any documents that you have from the customer that you want to upload to QuickBooks Online, you can do it right here. Just drag and drop them into this box. And then also we've got some additional information where we can put in their customer type. So that way you can break out some of your sales reports by the type of customer. Now, to set up a customer, the best way to do it is to go in here to the customers list and just click New Customer up here at the top right, and that's where you'll see this window, and you can fill it all in. So we've got our customers set up. The other thing that you'll need to set up before you can start recording a lot of sales are products and services. Products and services are your way of basically telling QuickBooks what it is that you sell. And also it helps you to steer the income from your sales into the proper income accounts on your profit and loss report. So whenever we go over here to sales, products and services, we're going to see here a list of the things that we sell. So we've got design services because we're a landscaping and design company. We've also got some gardening services and some, we've got some rocks down here. So lots of great stuff that we can sell to our customers. Now, all of these different products are linked to an income account, and you're also able to put in a default price and a default message that you want to appear on your sales forms. So right here for design, for instance, whenever I edit this, I'll be able to see as it pops out over on the right-hand side, here's the description that I want to immediately appear on my customer's sales, and then also a default price. This is the income account. So if I say make $1,000 worth of design sales, whenever I go to look at my profit and loss report, I will see $1,000 in products and services income. That's an income account that appears on my chart of accounts. So that's how QuickBooks knows how to steer that information into the right income accounts whenever you make a sale. Now we're going to be using a pretty basic one on here just called products and services. Now I'm going to go up here to my create menu and let's go ahead and fill out an invoice. So the first invoice I'm going to fill out is going to be to a customer named My Customer. Now you might notice that I actually have my Gmail inbox open right here, because not only am I going to issue an invoice to this customer, I'm also going to email it to them, and I'm going to show you what a customer will see whenever you actually send them an invoice. Pretty helpful information to know about. So right up here for the customer, you can click the drop down arrow, choose them from a list, or you can just start typing their names. You can also create new customers from here. Notice that it brings in the billing information and also their email address automatically. That's because I set them up ahead of time on my customers list. Right here in the middle, we see the online payments option. So if you have QBO Payments turned on, you're going to see these two check marks available for you for credit cards and also bank transfers. Now, over here, we see, again, the billing address. We've got the terms. That's how many days we're giving the customer to pay us. So terms of net 30 means that they need to pay the net of the invoice within 30 days. And then we also have the invoice day. It's usually going to be the day you issue the invoice, and then when it's due. Now down here in the products and services area, this section is highly customizable. And you can choose a lot of your customization options for your invoices right here by clicking on the gear icon up at the top right. Clicking on that gives us a lot of things to choose from. First of all, we can put in shipping. That gives us these extra fields and also a shipping to field. We also see total discount. When we turn that on, whenever we scroll down here towards the bottom, we can enter a total discount percentage or a discount value. So if you want to discount something that's on the invoice, you can do it from there. There's also deposit. So if your customer gives you a deposit, you can enter that down here in the deposit section along with the rest of the invoice. So if you're issuing a $10,000 invoice and they've paid you $2,000 already, you can fill out the invoice for $10,000 and put in $2,000 as the deposit amount. Now, there is still more. This is one of the most commonly asked for features, which is custom transaction numbers. Whenever you first start using QuickBooks Online, this is going to be turned off. And notice that right here in this invoice screen, I don't have any place to put in an invoice number. It does have a number. It says invoice number 224, but I can't change that, right? So if we want to add our own numbers, we can click on the gear icon, choose custom transaction numbers, and then I've got an invoice number field right here on the right-hand side of the screen. You can change to whatever you like. Now, you don't have to change it every time. Fortunately, QuickBooks will keep track of these for you. It'll always pick up the next number in the sequence. So right here is 224. The next time we open up an invoice screen, it'll be 225. Now, there's more in here too. There's also a place where we can add our own fields. So if you need to keep track of something that's specific to your business, like a sales rep or something like that, you can add these additional fields. You can add up to 3 of them, unless you're using QuickBooks Online Advanced, in which case you can have up to 10. And you also get some more options if you're using QuickBooks Online Advanced, like you get drop-down menus and things like that you can add instead of just the fields to type in. Now we've also got date. If you want to put a little date column right here for the products and services, maybe the date that those services were performed, you can do that. And then there's also a SKU column if you enter SKUs for the products and services that you sell. It's really useful for inventory if you want to have SKU numbers or stock keeping units for those different products that you sell. Now down here we have products and services. Those come directly from that products and services list. So whenever I click this drop down here, I'm going to see the same things we saw earlier. So right here we see that design product, right? Now I'm going to make this a little bit simpler. I'm just going to put in products and services. It's a product or service named products and services. It's a little unimaginative of us, I guess. And it's over there on the products and services list. So whenever I click on it, right in here, it brings in the description. And then I'm able to enter the quantity, the rate, and the amount. So we're going to say that we're going to sell 10 products and services multiplied by 100 for a total of $1,000. So right here, we're able to see the total, and down here, we're able to see those details. If you don't see quantity or rate, I'm going to show you a way for you to turn it on in your settings later on. Now, there are a couple of things we can still do here. We can continue to add more things. And in fact, if we have things that we want to break up into different sections, we can do that too with subtotals. So right in here, I'm going to put in, let's say, some rocks. So I'll say rocks. We're going to sell 10 rocks at $20 a piece. So we've got products and services and rocks. Now I want to group these two things together, and then underneath them, I want to see the subtotal for those two items. And then finally, at the bottom of the invoice, I want to see some design services that we're doing. So what I'll do is I'll click above the line where I want the subtotal to be. So if I want the subtotal right here, I'll click on one line above it and then click add subtotal. And so now we've got a subtotal of those two things added up together, and I can continue adding more things on here. So I'm going to put in design, and we're going to sell 5-hour design at $75 an hour. And then if I wanted a subtotal for that too, I can again click on the line above it and then click add subtotal. So now we've got two subtotals and then also a grand total down at the very bottom. So you can move these around as well. If you sort of worked on the top and you want to sort of move things around a little bit, all you have to do is click on these 9 little dots over here on the left-hand side, and then click it with your mouse and drag it to wherever you want it to be, and then release it. And that'll change the order that it appears on for this invoice. You can clear off all of the items to start from scratch. You can also add lines, but there's not a whole lot of need for that, because whenever you click on the last line right here, it always makes more for you. So you've always got more lines to go on, and you can delete them with these little trash cans. Now here's the message on the invoice. That's a little personalized message you can send to your customers. Message on statement. So this is something that will appear on the statements that you send to your customers. Statements are separate from invoices. Not everybody sends out statements. Statements are essentially a way for you to show a customer all of the activity that has happened over a period of time, or to show them all of the open items, like open invoices, open payments, open credit memos, things like that you have in their name that are in accounts receivable right now. Most people don't use statements, but if you do and you want this to have like a special message on it, fire away and put it in there. Now, if there's anything you want to attach to the invoice for your own records or also for your customers, you can drag and drop it right into this field, because it's pretty cool. Because if you drag something in there, you do have a checkbox that you can check or leave unchecked that tells QuickBooks whether or not you want to send that attachment to your customer. So you can send those to your customer if you want to, or keep them for yourself. Either way works. Now we're going to talk about customizing a little bit later on, but I do want to point out that there's one little button down here that says make recurring. If you're issuing this invoice and you want it to recur every month or every week or every couple of months or anything like that, you can click this button and you can set up that schedule so that this invoice will happen over and over and over again. Now we're going to email this out by clicking on save and send, but you can also just save and close if you want to save this invoice and then print it out or something like that. So, but we're going to go ahead and send it out. We'll click on save and send, and then we'll get a little preview window letting us change some of the text that's going to be sent off to our client. So right here we've got the subject line, the body of the email, and then also that online payment option, which I'm going to show you how to turn on here in a bit. Over on the right hand side of the screen, this is where we see a preview of the invoice itself and the email that they receive. So now we'll go ahead and send and close that. Now, a little bit better than a preview is the actual email. So let's go ahead and take a look at what they actually got. Now, I have the inbox open right over here of the email address where we actually sent that invoice. And here it is, right here from Craig's Design and Landscaping. It's invoice 224 from Craig's Design and Landscaping. So this is what your customer will see. I'm going to click on that, and here is the invoice with that same wording that we were able to change if we wanted to. And then scrolling down a little bit, here is the total due on the invoice. Now, in fact, if your customer owes you on multiple invoices, whenever they open up this window, they'll actually see the total amount that they owe your business right here in this field. So it's not just going to show them for this one invoice, it's going to show them for all of the invoices they currently have open. I'm going to review and pay this. So let's see again what our customers are going to see in this next screen. So immediately it takes us into the payment screen where they can enter their payment. So pretty cool. They click on review and pay, and sure enough, it takes them right into the screen where they're going to be able to do that. So here they're able to pay us with debit card, with a bank transfer, and also with credit card. And up here at the top right, this is where they can see the invoice. They can download that, they can print it, and they can also click view invoice to actually open it up right here. So this is where they're seeing the actual invoice that we sent them. Basically, it's a PDF, and that's why we're able to both download that right here and also print it out, or they're able to rather. So we've got all the data right over here. And in fact, if you have customers that you regularly issue invoices to, they can even save their payment information right in here. So that way, it'll be a little bit easier for them the next time they do it. Now, if they pay you this way, you're done. You don't have to do anything else, which is part of the real power behind using QBO Payments, because just issuing those invoices and then receiving payments that are processed by QuickBooks makes your life a lot easier, because they are the ones processing these things and you don't have to worry about any more data entry. I'm going to show you really quick how you can turn on QBO Payments. Just go to the gear icon and then go over to Account and Settings. Now, we're going to go over here on the left-hand side. We got to wait for it to load. Sometimes it takes it a moment to load up. There we go. Whoops. It's right under Payments, right here. Now, in this section, we got a lot of information. We've got the merchant details. So this is the merchant ID. Now, this is my information for this company. Now yours is of course going to explain your own company information, but in this page you'll see a button where you can sign up for QBO Payments, and it's free to sign up. Doesn't cost you anything extra to do it. Now Intuit will charge you for the processing of those customer payments. So whenever customers pay you through a debit card or through a credit card, there is a fee for that. And also through bank transfers, there is a fee for that. But just signing up by itself will not do anything in terms of charging you for money or anything like that. It's on a charge by charge basis with your customers. So we've also got, I want to point out over here under sales, I want to point out that I mentioned earlier that there's a way for you to turn on quantity and rate for your sales forms. This is where you can do that. Right here under products and services, notice that it says track quantity and price rate. So if you don't see quantity or rate on your sales forms but you want to, you can go in here and you can turn this on, and that's what will give you those quantity and rate fields. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this, close these things, and we're going to talk about the next step in the invoicing process, which is receiving payments. Now, as soon as you invoice a customer, their balance is going to go up, because the accounts receivable balance for that customer has increased. So right here, if I look at my customer, notice that their balance is now $1,625.44. That means that that's the amount of money that they owe us. Now, I'm able to see that in a variety of ways. This is one way, but we also have accounts receivable reports. So if I go over here to reports, I'm going to show you something we can do, because that customer screen, it's really handy to see at that moment how much is owed to us right then. But sometimes we want to see not just how much money is owed to us, but also how late people are in terms of the number of days overdue they are on those invoices. We can't really see that from that customers list. And also we've got all those other customers who don't owe us any money, so they kind of get in the way. So I'm going to show you two reports that are really helpful for this. First, we've got accounts receivable aging summary. Now this is one of the most basic reports you can run for this, because it's going to show us each individual customer that owes us money, and also it'll tell us how much they are current on, which means that these are invoices that are not overdue. And then it breaks it down by 1 to 30 days overdue, 31 to 60 days overdue, 61 to 9 days overdue, 91 and over overdue, and the total. Now, all of these numbers can be clicked on. So if we click on this one, for instance, it's going to bring us to the sales transaction that we just recorded. So here we're able to see all of the stuff that they owe us on. We've actually got a couple of $1 invoices, it looks like, that have been issued a couple of times. Those are our other trainers who are teaching other classes. They go in and they record invoices to show people how to use this feature too. This is the invoice that we just issued for $1,622.44. And you can also click on any one of these individual transactions to then go to it to see the details about it. So you can drill down and down and down to get more and more detail about these sorts of transactions in your customers. So that's the summary report. It's helpful if you want to see sort of like the big picture about a lot of your customers at the same time. But if you want to see the individual transactions right away, there's another report you can run instead. Or also you can run both these reports if you really want to. And this other report is called the Accounts Receivable Aging Detail Report. Now the detail report is going to show us basically the same data. So it's taking the same totals and the same invoices, but the difference is that it's laying it out a little bit differently for us. So instead of grouping everything by customer, it's instead grouping everything by due date and by days overdue. So right here, we're able to see 91 or more days overdue, and then all the invoices that match that criteria. And then we also see all of our current invoices that match that criteria. So it breaks them up by the number of days overdue. It also tells us about the totals for each one of those different groups. So same data, just presented in a different way. This way we're able to see the individual transactions rather than just a single number for each one of our customers. So it's just a matter of which sort of data you want to go for. So accounts receivable is really easy to track, both through the customers list and these two reports. Now let's talk about receiving payments from our customers. Now, if you're using QBO Payments and your customers pay you through those Pay Now links that you send through your invoices, you don't have to do anything else. You're done. QuickBooks is going to download those transactions, it's going to record them by itself. You don't have to do anything. But if you are not going to use QBO Payments, or if your customer decides not to pay you that way, maybe they're going to pay you in cash, maybe they're going to pay you with a check, something like that, we then have to go to the Create menu and then choose Receive Payment. Now at this point, some people will ask, can I just download the payment? And the answer is maybe, because the fact is that whenever you download a transaction from the bank, QuickBooks is going to look through your banking records or through your records in QuickBooks to try to determine which invoice it should match it up against. And it works if the invoice is very close in terms of the date to the payment. It also works if the two are relevant sizes. So if they're the exact same amount, it definitely works. But if you're trying to receive a payment from a customer for multiple invoices, or if you're trying to input a payment from a customer that you want to sort of group together with other customer payments, then you need to use the customer payment window. It's really important. In fact, most people are still going to record this manually because most people do want to group customer payments together by using undeposited funds. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a moment. So our customer here is my customer. When I put that in, out pops all of their invoices. Now we can select them one by one, or we can select all of them right here, depending upon what it is they're paying. So we also see the payment method. That's how they pay us. Now, I get the question all the time. Okay, so I've seen this receive payment window, but what if they pay me with a credit card? What if they pay me with a debit card? What if they pay me with a check? And the answer is, no matter how they pay you, this is the screen you use. So right here with the receive payments window, I can click that down and I can choose from all of these different options. Notice we got PayPal, we got MasterCard, we don't have Visa, but we can create it. We got credit cards and debit cards. So however it is they pay you, this is the window you use if you need to record it manually. Now I'm going to say that this customer is paying us with a check. That's a pretty good reason for them to not pay us with QBO Payments. But even with this check, we can still enter the bank info. We can still have QuickBooks process that for us if we're using QBO Payments. By the way, if you're using QBO Payments, you can also key in the entry. Whether if it's a credit card or a debit card, you can type it in through the enter credit card details window. We're going to say that's none of the case. They actually gave us a physical check, and right here we'll enter the number of the check. Now, if this check is being deposited by itself, you can click this deposit to drop down arrow and choose the bank account where you're depositing. And if you do that, you're done. You don't have to do anything else. But a lot of you are going to be taking customer payments and then combining those customer payments together with other customer payments, or your merchant services company is going to be doing that for you because you're in a situation where you got a customer services company that processes payments for you throughout the day, and then they make a single deposit at the end of the day. Okay, if that's the case, we're not going to be using a bank account at all. We're going to be using undeposited funds. Undeposited funds is a catch-all term for all of the money that customers have given to us that we just haven't taken to the bank yet. That's what undeposited funds is. So if you've received 15, 16, 20 different payments from customers, put them all into undeposited funds, that's great, because once you actually do go to the bank, you're able to link them all together into a single deposit. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. Now we've got undeposited funds filled out for the deposit to. I think we're done here. There's also a memo down here. If you want to, you can enter that. But we've got all of our information filled in. I'm going to go ahead and save and close. You can also save and send, by the way, if you want to send them a receipt. And as soon as I do that, we now have my customer, $0 balance. So they don't owe us anything anymore. They paid us all that money, and it all went into our, let me go over here to accounting. It all went into our undeposited funds account, which is right here. Now, I could make the deposit right now, but another customer comes in through the door and they want to buy something from me. Now, you know, earlier we talked about the difference between sales receipts and invoices. Invoices is if the customer pays us later on. Sales receipt is if they pay us right away. This next customer who comes through the door, they're paying me right away. There's never going to be a moment where they owe me any money. So my way of dealing with that is to go up here to the create menu. I'm not going to issue an invoice. Instead, I'm going to go with a sales receipt. Now, sales receipts look remarkably similar to invoices. In fact, they are pretty much the same thing. The big difference right here is that there's no due date, because they never have anything due except for at the purchase. And also, it also has this little section here where we're able to tell QuickBooks where the money goes as soon as we get it. So we're going to say that one of our regular customers comes in, and our regular customer is, oh good, we actually have John Melton in there. So I'll put in John Melton. John Melton's going to come in and buy some rocks. So right here for the project service, we'll enter rocks. Very good. We're going to say he's going to purchase 10 rocks at $20 a piece. Now the payment method, again, same thing. However it is the customer pays you, if they're coming in, they're buying something from your store, sales receipt, sales receipt, sales receipt, that's all you have to record. So it doesn't matter how they're paying you. We're going to say he's going to pay us with cash. And then again, if the money is going into a bank account by itself, we'll enter a bank account right here. Otherwise, if you want to group it in together with other customer payments, we'll use undeposited funds. Now, you can also, again, if you're using QBO Payments, you can also process customer payments directly through this window as debit cards, credit cards, bank transfers, things like that. But we're not going to do that. Down here, we also got some extra messages and attachments section, and you can also make these recurring as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close on this, and that's how you record a sales receipt. So a lot simpler than an invoice, honestly, because there's just one transaction instead of the two, because with an invoice, you've got the invoice and also the payment later on. So we've received 2 payments from our customers, one on an invoice, one on a sales receipt. Notice right here, undeposited funds is $1,846.94. So that's the money that we have sitting around the office, maybe in a cash register, maybe in a drawer, maybe in a bank bag, maybe in our merchant services company's clearing account or ACH account. Maybe they're holding that for us until the end of the day. That's what undeposited funds stands for. All those different places where we can have money. Now, at the end of the day, we're going to take all those cash, all those checks, and we're going to take them down to the bank. So we want to clear this out and move it over into our checking account. Looks like we're pretty flush with cash, but we're going to get even more in there. So I want to move this to over here. So what I'm going to do is actually duplicate this window by right-clicking and then choosing duplicate, because I want to show you the before and the after with this deposit, okay? So we've got this window open. We can always switch back over here to see how things are. So in this little tab, I'm going to click on my create menu. We're going to record a deposit. Now this is not necessary if while you're recording those payments, the money went directly into a bank account. Okay, this is only used if you used undeposited funds. So up here at the top, we're going to choose the bank account where we're making the deposit. We're going to deposit into our checking account. We're going to enter the date that the deposit happened. And then right in here, we're going to see all of those various payments. So we can select them individually or all at once. And notice that right here we have a total of $1,846.94, and that's what we're going to be depositing together. Whenever I switch over into my other tab, notice that it's the exact same number in undeposited funds. So that's how those payments get translated from your sales transactions over onto that deposit screen by using undeposited funds. This allows us to group these three payments together into a single deposit. Really important for banking, because if you were to record all three of these transactions individually by themselves, QuickBooks would think that you made a $5 deposit, a $1,600 deposit, and a $216 deposit. So you'll have three deposits in QuickBooks. But then whenever you download the transactions from the bank or look at your bank statement, it'll say one deposit for $1,846. That's a big problem, especially whenever you're reconciling, and especially if you're using online banking. So we always want to make sure that the things that are in QuickBooks are going to be the exact same thing that are on the bank statement. And that's how undeposited funds helps us. It allows us to group these things together to make sure that they're right. Now down towards the bottom, notice that we also have add funds to this deposit section. So if when you're going to the bank, you're taking some extra money along with you, like a refund check from a vendor, or maybe there's some money being taken out for merchant services fees or something like that, we can add or subtract funds from this deposit right here in this section. So if we're adding funds, we can enter an income account or maybe an expense account if we're receiving a refund, some kind of a reason why there's some extra money going into this deposit. Or if we are having money taken out, we can also enter an account, but then as the amount, enter a negative amount. I'm going to show you how that works. So right here for the account, let's say that there are some bank fees. Whenever I take these deposits over to the bank, they're going to charge me some money for some reason. So right here for the account, I'm going to choose bank charges and fees. It's an expense account. We'll just call this bank charges. And they charge me $100. So I'm not going to put a positive $100 because if I do that, it'll increase the amount of the deposit. I actually want to decrease it. So I'll enter negative 100, press tab, and so now we can see 1,846.94 from my deposited funds. Negative 100 from the bank charges leads us to a total of $1,746.94. So this is often the case with merchant services fees. They'll take it out of the deposit. So if you're using Stripe or something like that, you'll often have to record those sorts of transactions this way. But if you're using QBO Payments, this all happens automatically, by the way. So you don't have to do any of this work. So now we're going to save this. And I want to just remind everybody, here's the undeposited funds account balance. Here's the checking account balance. These are going to change as I go in here to my bank deposit, click my drop down arrow, save and close. And let's look, we've seen the before, let's take a look at the after. So here we're able to see undeposited funds, $0. And our checking account balance went up by almost the same amount. It was minus $100 for those bank fees. So that's how to record your sales in QuickBooks. Now you might be wondering, what happens whenever I download that deposit from the bank? No problem. Whenever you go into your banking system, right over here, and you click on banking, as long as what you download from your bank has the exact same amount as the deposit that we were just recorded in QuickBooks, it'll show up as a match. That way you can click on the match button and those two things will essentially combine together and they won't be counted separately. So it won't be counted twice, it'll just be counted the one time. And that's actually one of the main reasons that we use undeposited funds, because we always want to make sure that the transactions we download from the bank are going to be the exact same as what we record through QuickBooks, and using undeposited funds helps us do that. Now, I want to show you how to also work with this in the mobile app. Now, the mobile app is, bear with me for just one moment. The mobile app is free. You can download it to your phones and your tablets at no extra cost. All you have to do is go onto the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, search for QuickBooks Online. Usually it'll be the first one you see. The full name of it is QuickBooks Online Accounting, Invoices, and Expenses. Again, that name is QuickBooks Online Accounting, Invoices, and Expenses. Now, once you've downloaded it, you can log into your company file. It's the same company file you access through your browser. And once you're in it, you can then start recording transactions. Now, the app looks pretty much the same regardless of whether you're on an iOS device or a Google Android device. But there is one minor difference, which is that the plus button, the create menu, appears at the bottom of the screen if you're using an iOS device, whereas it appears up at the top right if you're using an Android device. So that's the big distinction between the two. Outside of that, they work the same. Now I'm going to show you how to record a sales transaction by using your mobile app. So this is a really cool thing you can do. All you have to do is tap on the plus menu down at the very bottom, the create menu. Once we tap on it, it's going to open up our menu. We can create sales receipts, invoices, and also estimates. Now this is the new invoice window. Tap on the customer, choose them from your list. You can also add new customers from here. We'll enter the date. QuickBooks assumes that it's today's date, but you can tap that to change it if you want to. And that's really important because then QuickBooks will know when to post that income on your profit and loss report. We've also got the terms. So that's the number of days that the customer has to pay. And then whenever we tap on products and services, we'll choose between all the different products and services on our products and services list. Once we tap on one, it then asks us for the quantity, rate, and amount, as well as whether or not it's taxable. You got a little toggle right there. Just tap on any value and you can change it, as well as changing the description that appears at the very bottom. So right here we have landscaping design services. You can enter whatever you like, and that'll be included on the invoice instead. So tap done and then tap add up at the top right, and it goes on to the invoice. You can take these away by tapping on the minus button, or you can change them by tapping on them themselves and editing of the details. There's also add a line item if you want to continue adding more items onto the invoice. Now, we're going to see down towards the bottom a section for sales tax. There's also a section for customer message and memo. So once you're done with this invoice and you're ready for the customer to see it, click save or tap save. And QuickBooks Online mobile app keeps track of the process for you. So right now we need to send it. So we'll tap on send invoice, and we can send these directly from our phone. Here we see a preview of the message, and then scrolling down, we'll also see a preview of the invoice that the customer will eventually see. Tap send up at the top right, and that'll send it along to our customer, and it keeps track of the fact that it's been sent. We don't see that it's been viewed, but once the customer opens it up and takes a look at it, that will update on your phone. It'll also update in QuickBooks through the browser. So pretty cool stuff. I definitely recommend downloading that app. Again, it's free, so doesn't hurt anything to download it and to use it and to sort of test it out. Now, I've shown you a couple of our sales forms, and they're probably a little bit different from yours. Might notice that the colors were a little bit different, the layout was a little bit different. We had a logo on ours earlier. So I'm going to show you where you can change some of those things. Now, our sales forms are all located right here from the gear icon, and it's going to be right under your company. Notice right here how we have custom form styles. This is where we can customize our invoices and our sales receipts and estimates and add logos and things like that. So whenever you first start using QBO, you're going to have a standard style. And the standard style is mostly going to have like a blue font. It's not going to have any logo, and it's going to be laid out pretty plainly. We can edit this if we want to, or we can just create a new one. Now, I want to tell you, if you edit this standard style, it's also going to edit any of the existing invoices that you've already created that you used the standard style on, which will probably be all of them. So be mindful of that. You're going to be potentially editing the way all of your old invoices look. Usually that's not a deal breaker for people, but I don't like for that to be a surprise either. So be mindful of that. Now I'm going to click on edit for this. And this is where we can change the details of what our customer sees. Over here on the left-hand side, we've got the template. So we're on the bold template, which has a lot more color. But you can also go to airy. We've got modern, fresh, friendly. You can choose to change your logo. You can actually have multiple logos. So you can choose between those. You can add new ones, right? You can choose where they're at and also how big they are. We've got a choice of colors. Now, whenever you upload your logo, QuickBooks Online will actually change the colors on your invoices and sales forms to match the color on your logo. It does that automatically, but you can change it by yourself by tapping or clicking on any one of these colors instead. We've also got fonts, which font you want to use, and then also we've got the margins. So we've got all of those on your sales form. We're going to go over to content. Now this is where you can change your header. All you have to do is tap on the header. Up here we can change any of the header information. We can also change the form information. By the way, this is really handy if you're running a nonprofit, because you don't really want to send your donors invoices, right? You probably want to send them pledges. So here's a cool thing you can do. Just call it a pledge. And so that way, whenever you send them off, now we have pledge number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of invoice. We also have estimate, sales receipt. You can change any one of these. So instead of estimates, maybe you have proposals, or instead of sales receipts, maybe you have donations. So we can change any of these to whatever we want. We've also got some more things down here to display or not display. We've also got the body of the sales form. This is where customers and donors actually see what it is that you're charging them for. And also you're able to see a little account summary up here. You can choose to turn that on or off. Basically, it's like a little mini statement. It tells the customer their balance forward, so how much money they owed before this invoice, the new charges, and then the total. And then all of the new items will be listed right here too. In fact, you can rearrange these. If you want quantity to appear first, just tap on these 9 little dots, drag it up to wherever it is you want it to be. Notice that quantity now appears first. So you can rearrange them. You can also retitle them. So if you tap on edit labels and widths, you can change any of the labels right here, and you can also change the sizes of these. I keep saying tap. I'm so used to using phones and things like that. We've also got show more activity options down here at the bottom, so you can turn any of these on or off. And then there's also finally a footer section in which we put our legal disclaimer that we're not responsible for anything under any circumstances, no matter what, ever. And you also can change up the messages that you showed your customers by default. Now the emails that we send out, earlier I showed you how to send out an email for an invoice, but also how to change the subject line and the body of the email. So if you have a standard message that you want to be sent out with all of your emails that's different from the one that Intuit comes equipped with, you can go in here and you can change that. Because right in here, we can choose the message to customer for invoices. That's where it says invoice. Just change that over to estimate. You can change it for estimates. You can also change it for sales receipts. So you can customize the messaging that you have with all of your customers right here through this window. And this is also where we're going to see the payments information. You'll only see these details right in here if you've signed up for QBO Payments, which again, signing up for is free. I'm not going to charge you anything for that. It's just some fees will apply whenever some credit card charges or debit card charges are made by your customer. So that's where you can change your form styles for your sales forms. Now, if you have multiple form styles in your company for your sales, you can actually choose between them whenever you record a sale. So if we're up here and we're recording an invoice or a sales receipt or something like that, we've got multiple styles. Click on Customize down here at the bottom, and you're able to choose between those different styles right in here. We've only got the standard one, so it only shows us one, but if you have multiple, you'll see multiple on there. Now, I want to spend just like a minute or two talking about a couple of cool sales reports. I showed you the accounts receivable report earlier, but I want to sort of round that out by also showing you a sales report for items and services, products and services, and also a sales report for customers. So it's two more sales reports, and then we'll start to wrap this up a little bit. Now, I'm going to go over to reports, and all of your sales reports are held within a single area. We've got sales and customers right here, so you can refer to this at any time. But if you know the type of report that you want to look for, like sales report, you can just type in the name of it right here and then look through the different sales reports. Sometimes that's a little bit faster. I want to show you one sales report, which is a sales by product or service summary. So if you're ever curious about what things you've sold over time, you can run a report like this that'll show you the products and services you've sold over the selected date range, the quantity that you've sold, the dollar amount, and what percentage of your total sales comes from each one of these different products and services. If you're selling inventory, you'll also see your profit margins on those different inventory items on this report. So this is the sales by product or service summary report. Now there's one other report I'm going to show you, which is the sales by customer summary. Now sales by customer summary is pretty cool because it shows you who these sales were with. And again, you can choose the date range right here, and then it'll list the different customers that have purchased something from you over that date range. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, but I'm going to mention right now, whenever you're recording a sales receipt, you don't have to record a customer. So if you've been recording your sales on sales receipts without a customer's name, you're probably not going to see anybody's name on here, but that's okay too, because if you're in that situation where you're not recording those customers' names, then it might just not matter to you very much. So those are the ways for us to record sales and also the ways for us to track sales through our sales reports. Hopefully you enjoyed the class and happy QuickBooks.